Hello and welcome to another tutorial by LearnPythonTutorial.com. Today we're going to talk about Python list. List is another data type that you'll be using often when you're programming with Python. Today we're just going to do a quick overview of a list. We're going to show you how to create it and what a Python list is. So let's talk about a Python list. A list contains all different types of data. It can contain strings, numbers, other lists, dictionaries, and so on. So when we create a list, we can put all types of data into it and call it from the whole list to just parts of the list. Lists are mutable, which means it can be changed in place, unlike strings where we can't change string in place. So with lists, it gives us a great flexibility and ability to store a bunch of data. Lists are also in a sequence just like strings that we talked about yesterday. So let's look at that sequence. First off, let's look here. We have a list. The square brackets indicate a list. And we got number 987, which is just a regular integer. And then we got a string, it says Python. Then we got another string, it says dog. If you notice, these data are separated by commas. So that indicates this is one big number, this is a string, and it's separated by a comma, so treated as one piece of data. Dog, same thing. It's one piece of data, separated by a comma, so on. We close out a list with the square bracket, and the list in sequence is kind of like the string sequence, but each comma counts as an index place. So 987 is index 0. It always starts at 0. Always starts at 0. Python is another piece of data. That's 1. Dog's another piece of data. That's 2. And so on. So let's go ahead and practice creating some lists. We're going to bring up our Python interpreter. So we bring up our Python interpreter. If you're not already in it, you go to your terminal, you type in Python 3 for Mac users, or command prompt for Windows users and type in Python. We get into our Python interpreter. Let's create a list. The other day we talked about variables. So we're going to use variables to create our list, or assign our list to variables, I should say. So let's create a variable called, oops, if I was on it, A, and we're going to equal that to a list. Square brackets create the list, and we'll give it, let's give it some names. Let's say Tom. Then we're going to separate this piece of data by a comma, and we'll give another name, Mike, and we'll separate that one by a comma. Let's give it another name, Jamie. Separate that by a comma also, and let's do one more. Let's do Jake, and separate that, or we don't have to separate that by a comma, and then we'll close that out with a square bracket, and there's our list. Now we press return, and we have created our list, and we assigned it to A, our variable. To call that list, we're going to just put A, hit return, and there's our list. That is how simple it is to create a list in Python. Now this gives us a lot of opportunities. Once we create a list, we can add to the list, we can delete from the list, but we're not going to cover that in today's tutorial, because today's tutorial is just a brief overview of lists. So let's create another one for practice sake. Let's do B equals, we're given a variable B, and we're assigning it a value of a list, and we're going to give it numbers, 987, 897, comma, and we're separating all these numbers by commas so they can be their own piece of data. Let's do 21, and let's do one more, let's do 67. And close out that list with a square bracket and hit return, and let's call that list. And we call that list by typing in the variable and hitting return, and there's our list. How about in the sequence, can we call it with a index number, kind of like I showed you in strings? We sliced the list. I didn't explain to you how to do a slice, but I was just showing you how to call it via the index. Let's try that. Let's get number 34. So to get number 34, we need to count from the left, and the index starts at 0, with the first piece of data. So we go 0, 1, 2. So we want to call the number 2 index from this list. So we go B, and then give it square brackets, 2, square brackets, and hit return, and we get 34. Pretty simple, right? How about, this is something I didn't show you yesterday, since we really haven't talked about slicing. How about if we wanted to get the last number here? Would we have to count from the left? No, actually we do not. We can actually put -1. And when we use negatives, it counts from the back. It counts right to left. So let's try that. Let's do B, square brackets, -1, and another square bracket, and hit return. There's 67. When we count from the back, this number will not indicate 0. Our index wouldn't be 0 if we count from the back. So -0 wouldn't do anything. Let's try -0. 987. If we did -0, it starts back at 987. I wasn't actually aware it would do that, but you learn something new every day. So let's try to get 21 using negative. Let's do B, square bracket, -2, square bracket, hit return, and we get 21. So this is just a brief overview of list. So let's practice one more time creating a list. Let's create a list of, let's make a groceries list. So let's just do list equals square brackets. We want to get eggs. We want to get milk. We want to get apples. And we want to get, what did we get? Tea. And close that out with square brackets, hit return. Let's call list, and we got our list printed out to us here. That's how we create lists. In a couple chapters here, we'll dig into lists, how to add stuff to a list, how to remove stuff from a list, how just to call one item in a list. It's going to be very easy to follow along in the future chapter now that you know how to create lists. So thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have any questions, leave it on our YouTube channel or our website at learnpythontutorial.com. We'll see you in the next tutorial, which is going to be on dictionaries. Dictionaries is another data type that we'll cover, and it's a very useful data type. So we'll see you in the next one.